Welcome everyone to the Semicolon Podcast. My name is Cantave and thank you for joining me for yet again another episode where we're going to be discussing a very fun, interesting topic. And this is a continuation of last week's episode, which was titled Who Runs St. Martin? Understanding the way in which colonialism impacts our everyday life. You know, the reality of our political status. And so I'd like to thank you once again for joining me on today's episode, where here on the Semicolon we seek to answer one main question. And as you can see already, the fact that I'm continuing on this topic, does the story continue? Does it end? Well, it definitely continues. But when does it end? How does it end? That is something that is yet to be unraveled. And the whole purpose of this is to keep you informed about the world around you, what's happening, decisions that are being made, things that are happening in society that can impact your life. But to still give you the encouragement to keep moving forward, because no matter what happens in life, life continues, and so will we. So just a quick recap. Last week I ended off on the note of looking at the power structure, of our island, where basically the ultimate decision maker, ultimate by way of, just the legal structure and political structure of this island, is not us. It's not our leaders, it's not our ministers, it's not our parliament. Yes, we do have quite a significant amount of decision-making ability. We can set forth projects, plans, ideas, and we have a lot. There are a lot of things that we can do. The reality is that at this present moment, St. Martin is being governed by directives and agreed upon agenda with the island and the Netherlands. And so our leaders are right now executing that plan. And the reason they have to execute it is not just because they signed, but because there was money attached to it. And that is that is one of the elements of colonialism and even neo-colonialism, where money gets to dictate, the directive that a nation goes, the policies that it enacts. And, it's not to say entirely that everything that is passed down, every command or every agenda point is evil or bad. There are elements, there are things that are done, there are things that are agreed upon that would truly benefit your life, that would benefit this island. And there are some things that are taking place, that had to be done so long ago and are only now taking place. So, in a sense, you could say, well, by way of the pandemic, the Netherlands came in, set a stronger footing on the island, show more presence, as far as this island being part of their kingdom. And by way of doing that, doing things that we expected our leaders to do, or lit a fire under their behinds to get them to get up and do something. So before we go more into today's episode, we're just going to take a quick break, listen to some words from our sponsors, because guess what? Despite all of that, I want you to understand, even as I have here on my shirt, St. Martin is sweet. St. Martin is sweet. And here's a sweet deal that you just can't miss.
Escape the hustle and bustle of your everyday life and treat yourself to an unforgettable staycation at our hotel this summer. Our elegant rooms and suites provide the perfect retreat, complete with breathtaking views and all the amenities you need to relax and unwind. Enjoy a refreshing dip in our pool or book one of many activities with our friendly staff. Savor delicious cuisine at our on-site restaurant or sip on a cocktail at our oceanfront bar. With our prime location, you'll have easy access to nearby attractions and activities. Book your stay now at Bel Air Beach Hotel and make this summer spectacular. Visit our Facebook and Instagram pages for more information or WhatsApp us at 721-553-4295. See you there.
Alrighty, welcome back. I hope you take advantage of that great offer brought to you by Bel Air Beach Hotel. Be sure once again to find out more information. You can even go to their Facebook page at Bel Air Beach Hotel or send an email at info@belairbeach.com. So the perspective or the element that I want to discuss today is one of the partnership between a territory, or let's say a territory and a colonizer. So the colonizer and its territory, but the middleman, So we're going to be looking at the middleman in terms of who runs St. Martin, how it affects our everyday life. We're going to look at the middleman, and that middleman being not really one person, but what has successfully enabled many colonizing nations to be able to dominate, to thrive, and whether take advantage, exploit whatever territory that they conquered or that they colonized. That middleman is often and usually always someone from that territory, someone who basically places themselves up as a leader, as one who can bring reason and understanding between the colony and the colonizer. And that person usually is someone who is someone who has resources available to them. So whether it's a wealthy person or someone that is extremely ambitious and does everything possible to make sure that they are at the forefront, that they are seen as the one that can bring hope, that can bring peace and understanding, between the colonizer and the colony, basically the territory that is colonized or dominated. And so even when I think about it from a St. Martin perspective, it is important at this point in time, because of the intense friction and years of a fractured relationship with St. Martin in the Netherlands, we actually do need a peacemaker. Let's say we need people who are able to rightly communicate the ambitions, the will, the sentiments of St. Martin as a country, but also able to understand the mindset, the history, and the reasoning of the colonizer. You can't escape the fact that they own the country. That's number one. We have to accept that fact, right? It is what it is. Our laws and everything are based on their system. So then how do we move forward from here? Because you see, the nature of colonialism is one where it propagates death. Wow, tough statement. But what I mean by that is it has moved past, at least in our present age and in our region specifically, it has moved past the culture of propagating of death by way of actual wars and murders and killings and assassinations. These things are real. These things have happened. In order to wipe out and take out the leaders and those who have been fighting against the colonial government and military and forces, to protect their land. So you don't necessarily see that. And like I said, that is in our region, our island specifically, because these things happen still. Other colonized territories and even formerly colonized territories, but that's a different discussion. But looking at that culture, let's say a culture of death, colonialism brings a culture of death. Full stop. And that death is the death of your being, your essence, who you are. Because the nature of colonialism is to make you like the colonizer. It's to transform you. So it's to transform you into his image, not God's. His image, to make you think like him. And one of the ways in which that takes place is by enforcing their language. Because guess what? The reality is, well, at least the reality is, many hundreds of years ago, if slavery didn't happen and we were actually born, where our ancestors came from, I don't think I'll be speaking English. I don't think I'll be speaking Dutch or French or Spanish, and even my Haitian Creole, because that is a mixture of several languages, right? No, I'll be speaking something else. And I don't want to imitate a language, but I'm pretty sure I'll be speaking something else. So language is one of the ways in which we exhibit our culture, our identity. It's a cultural marker. Your language, by way of your language, how you speak, I can tell where you're from. I can tell who you're for. And who are we for? We St. Martin. Yeah, we from St. Martin. We from here. But there's other languages at play, and there's another language that is the language of authority. Even though English, which is what majority of the people in Ireland speak, is also an official language, and the French side is just French. But again, people speak English predominantly. However, colonialism, what it boils down to in every facet, is the propagating of death, the death of the colonized man, the death of his beliefs, his ways of thinking, his modes of functioning, the way he sees himself. Why do you think we still use the term good hair? Or we call light-skinned people nice, pretty skin? This skin is pretty too. What happened to all this melanin? This is also fine. What if I decide to grow up my hair and grow afro? Well, Ralph, you need to make your hair look neat. It's not neat. Neat according to who? Who told you your hair wasn't neat? You know, and it's like that famous clip from Malcolm X, you know? Who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate yourself? We were taught to hate ourselves. We were taught to dislike, for some of us who have these, you know, nice broad, big nostrils, you know, so we were taught that. We were taught, especially if your skin was even darker than mine, yeah, you're not pretty, you're ugly. We were taught these things. So we had our esteem, our sense of value was put to death. That is what colonization does. That is, colonization it propagates death. It does it by way of economic meddling or trickery. By way of religion even. Yes, religion. That is, you know, and I say that even as someone who is a Christian, but there's a difference between religion and spirituality. I mean, I know people don't like to talk about what? Politics, religion, and what else? Something else. We're going to talk about all of those things on this podcast. So that's another episode. So the point is, though, the purpose of the driver, what makes colonization what it is, beyond capturing a land, beyond conquering a territory and placing your flag here and saying that this is your territory, no, this is your domain, etc. It all boils down to a culture of death, propagating death, the death of who you see yourself as, you know, your thoughts, your identity. It's to make you fall in line. So when you look at it from a St. Martin perspective, we never really had that issue. Interesting. But why is that? Because there was the colonizer, the Netherlands, they did not see our value up until recent times. So we have to understand that, one, compared to, unlike Curacao and Aruba, where, you know, for example, they had oil, they had the oil factories, they were larger, more developed, they were the epicenter of, you know, the Dutch colonialism in the Caribbean. That was their headquarters for, you know, controlling, governing the Caribbean islands. So basically, those islands got the most out of the mother country, out of the colonial master, out of the Netherlands. They got better roads. And, you know, you see today where those nations are a bit more developed than ours. Why? Because, well, St. Martin was just this backwards island, you know, that was focused on subsistence farming, even salt, the salt production. The reason why they brought us into their kingdom, it wasn't profitable. It didn't yield any significant results. And even with tourism, the introduction of tourism into our economy, we, you know, it wasn't that we were like what St. Bart's is today. We weren't like the creme de la creme. We weren't like the best in tourism. We were just starting. So St. Martin, you know, developed slowly. And we had to build this country. So St. Martin people had to really build, establish their society, their community, their values. But as money started flowing in by way of tourism, you know, and because, as I spoke about in the other episode last week, because with the construct of the Netherlands Antilles, you know, most of the funds, and, you know, they didn't come here. We had to share the bag of money with Saba, Statia, Bonaire, etc. We just got a little droplet. So what I'm saying is that the Netherlands didn't invest in St. Martin. They didn't pump money into, you know, making St. Martin a phenomenal, world-class, First Nation type of society. No. Like, we had to pull ourselves up by the bootstrap. That's what we had to do. Until St. Martin started showing signs of promise. So St. Martin was able to benefit from benign neglect. And that's the thing we have to understand. We were able to, just develop as a society because the Holland didn't care about us. But one of the things we had is that we didn't have a governing structure with sound checks and balances, and so a lot of decisions were made, to our detriment, which we face today. For example, the putting the dump in the middle of the Great Salt Pond. But nonetheless, that's history. We can't change it. We can analyze it, learn from it. We can't change history. So what you have is that St. Martin just had to figure its way on how to build a governing administration, and all of that happened. But then there came a time when the Netherlands realized, okay, we have this nation that is starting to boom, that's flourishing, that's showing signs of prosperity and promise. And so, they start to invest a bit more, by way of, I forgot the name of this. It was a government agency that would make investments in infrastructure and so forth in all the islands. But basically, they started to pay more attention to St. Martin. And by doing that, St. Martin was able to garner certain institutions as well as develop itself in various ways. Having said all of that, now let's look at the connection between what I mentioned in the beginning, the middleman, and how colonialism is a culture of death. How it in essence seeks to destroy the colonized man and remake him or reshape him, remodel him into the image of the colonizer. The main way in which we see that taking place is by way of language. As I mentioned also in the previous or the first part of this topic, language is law and law is language. The way we see that happening is through the use of the language itself. So we have a situation that is so interesting here in St. Martin, where we have a very diverse community and society. We have a multicultural society. That's a term we often use as well, where we have people that come from various backgrounds, and one of the things that unites them is one, money. At the end of the day, the main driver towards persons coming to St. Martin from so many different parts of the world is to seek a better life, and that better life was afforded to them by way of our economy. So that's one. But the second part, the way that what enables people to understand each other and work with each other and create a willingness to live next to each other and live at peace and all of that is language. Their ability to communicate with one another. So even if you speak a different language, you'll try to understand what the other person is saying and understand the language of the land at least. But as we sing on with the St. Martin song, the people French and Dutch don't talk in English much. That's the reality. English, the language of trade, the language of the people. St. Martin English. That is what is a foundation. That is a connector, rather, not the foundation per se, but the connector. Our ability to speak and be understood when we speak. That is connector to all these cultures that are living on the island. However, when it comes to the laws of the land, the governing language, the language of authority, whether you go to the police station, the courthouse, you name it, different government agencies, Dutch is the command, the language that you need to command. And so what you have is that you have these middlemen between the colony and the colonizer, who for the most part throughout history, so a good bit of them served not as peacemakers but as opportunists who sought to take advantage of the fact that the land is colonized and the colonizer needs a liaison, and they will function as the one to bring about peace, reason and all of that good stuff. But their true intention is to hone power, is to amass power, is to be a controller, a handler basically of their colonized territory. And we see that throughout history, where people, would literally sell out their country because all they care about was pleasing the commands and following the commands of the colonizer so that they would be rewarded for their obedience. And what you have here in St. Martin, unfortunately, is a set of leaders that we've had who were not focused on building local capacity, whose focus was not ensuring that the breath of this island, the children of this island, those born here or who came here and grew up here and call it home, that all of them were not equipped with the opportunity to be able to thrive in the land that they call home. And the way in which they do this is by weaponizing language. So what they would do is to ensure that only a set, and especially their kin, their affiliates, their family, their friends, that they're the ones who have the ability to progress in this land and make use of the opportunities available that should be available to all people. They create barriers and cut off people. They become gatekeepers through weaponizing the language. And they do that by simply ensuring that the people don't get to understand that there's no strong command of the colonizers' language. That the opportunities afforded to the people is one that will be put behind barriers by way of ensuring that the only way a Samaritaner could do well, the only way a Samaritaner could access certain key positions is only if they speak Dutch, is only if they could read and write in Dutch. But what happened to the fact that we have majority of our schools which are that are English-speaking schools? Yes, they teach Dutch as a second language in those schools, but at the end of the day, we have a society made up of people from different backgrounds, many who, for example, like myself, when we go home, our mother tongue is not even English. So in the classroom, you're speaking English. On the playground, you're speaking English. On a school bus, you're speaking English. And at home, you probably won't even speak English. Or you're speaking Spanish or whatever other language. So what does that mean? And even for those who go to Dutch schools, who went to the Dutch primary schools and then went to Dutch high schools, we have two major ones, right? But then in the classroom, you're learning in Dutch. On the playground or in the schoolyard, you're speaking in English. And at home, maybe you're speaking English or you're probably speaking your mother tongue. So, do you see the disconnect there? Why so many institutions that serve the people, that institutions that were set up for you, that you should be a part of to help determine the future course of your nation, of your country, you can become a part of it. Why? Well, you ain't from here. Well, guess what? We can't tell the Dutch people they ain't from here. As much as we want. You can tell them that, all of us who come from other Caribbean islands and whatnot, yeah, you ain't from here, hush your mouth, you have nothing to say about Samaritan. Okay, tell that to the Dutch person. Tell that to the Dutch man. You ain't from here. You gonna tell the Dutch man he ain't from here? This island is part of the Dutch kingdom, of his king's domain, and your king too, by the way. So wouldn't it have been wiser that our leaders would ensure that all of St. Martin's children, of its people, were educated, were trained, were built up with capacity, had the capability to go out into all the sectors on this island and lead and be a decision maker and not have to shrink themselves or not have to turn themselves inside out, not have to turn into another man because they know their identity as a Caribbean people, as Caribbean children, despite the fact that we are part of a colony. That they don't have to, then change their behavior, change their way of functioning because they believe who they are is less than. Who they are has no significance. And the greater mind, the one with the best skills is the one you see with the good hair. Come on, we got to change our way of thinking. We got to change our way of thinking. And the buzzword for that is what? Decolonization. But language. There's such a divide between the majority of these people and the legal system, between its governments. And there are people, the middlemen, who, for them, they ensure that they understand, they have command of the language, because then they could reap the benefits. They can maintain their stake in those positions. And they don't open the door for other locals, for other Samoan people. No, they open the door for the other Dutch folks to come in. They open the door for them to come in. Like, yeah, man, you come here. All right, we have space for you. You're a Samoan, now go work in some hotel. Go, go work in a bar. Yeah, you do that. Oh, your parents ain't from here? Jesus, boy, get from here. This space is only available for the white man, for the colonizer. And if you're white and if you're Dutch, don't feel no way. Just speaking facts. It's the truth. It's history. It's our reality. And we have to be comfortable speaking, on uncomfortable things. But that is what you have. And so, what does that create? You create a generation, a people, children who born here, grow up here. Because for them it's like, well, it's only those who have the last name, they're able to get through. And it's only those who have the connections, only they will get through. It's only those who study in Holland that get through. It's only those, who know Dutch that get through. But it can't be that. So how are we willing to make amends? Are we willing to really create change? To get out of our comfort zone and to accommodate, not even accommodate, but to ensure that we don't have such a huge fallout of, say, Martin children, of our future, of our next generation that live with this disconnect and a dislike for their own country because their country never accepted them. And instead of their leaders empowering them, no, what you had was that the leaders were happy. Oh, here's some study financing. You go away and don't bother come to you. What we could do for you at home, anyhow. You stay away and have a great life. But they staying here. They reaping the benefits of this land. What about you? Why don't our politicians go elsewhere? Yeah, we know some of them got American passports or make children in the States and do all that type of stuff. Okay, whatever. That's their business. But they ain't going on the States to be no politician. They want to be a politician right here in St. Martin. There's something sweet here. Very sweet. And it ain't just me or the shot I got on. There's something sweet here. There's value here. There's purpose here. And you have a role to play in that. But how do you do that in this construct? First, start with the mind. And believing and knowing that this land is yours. This land is yours. This land is my land. Remember that song that we grew up singing in school? Every St. Martin's Day fest. I would sing more, but saving a voice for another time. But yeah, it starts with the way we see ourselves. That we can't look at ourselves as less than, as insignificant. That we have to change who we are. And I'm speaking as a person who, as no surprise to some of you, those of you who know me and know the journey I'm on, where I am actually about to study law in Dutch. That's a interesting journey. But besides that, our people need to have access to the law, need to know their rights. But we can't maintain or keep it in the Dutch language when majority of people don't speak Dutch. I fully understand. Our system is Dutch, folks. Period. But we can make changes to ensure that the majority of our people are not left out. That they don't remain in ignorance. That is why people perish. That is why so many people have been abused on St. Martin. They don't know their rights. No easy access to the law. They can't fight because they lack the knowledge. And those who have the knowledge, those middlemen, they ain't giving it to you. They ain't giving it to you. But we can make a difference. We can make a difference. And there is one way that we can do that, like as I said, changing our mindset, and then going out and getting knowledge. Seek knowledge, get information, understand what's happening. And to ask serious questions, questions like, where do I see myself in the next 10 years, next 15 years? How do I fit in with this society? What am I willing to accept? When it comes to elections and voting and parliament, what do these things mean? What is the value of these institutions? And how can I make a contribution to that? What can I say? What is the power of my voice? Because there's power in your voice, but you gotta unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. And I hope that by way of my life, I can serve as an example, as one who didn't come from the special last name, who definitely came from, a heritage that was often looked down upon and still is by some folks. But because of changing my mindset, and going after what I believe in, doing what I love, and not being afraid to speak up, that I could at least sit down in front here and talk the things that are right, talk the truth. You could do it too. I mean, not everybody gotta be a podcaster. I ain't saying you gotta do that. Not everybody gotta be a journalist. But you are part of this island. And so, when it comes to who runs St. Martin, will this story continue or will it end? Like I already said, with this one it's pretty easy. It's gonna continue. But what we need to now look at is that how do we see us moving forward? With our relationship with the Netherlands, how do we see ourselves moving forward? What agreements can we make? What agreements can we make? Will we continue to make certain compromises? What benefits? What is it that we should champion for? What is our stance on reparations, for example? That is a serious issue. There has been talks about debt cancellation. As these are serious matters. But my point is, don't forget the nature of the colonizer. The reason why this island is part of a kingdom, of a king's domain. It has value. It matters to them. And if the path is independence, if we truly want that, if we see ourselves going towards that, what is the plan? Where do we go from here? What do we want? So many questions. But again, does the story continue? Does it end? Be sure to tune in next week for another interesting and exciting episode. I appreciate all of you taking the time to listen and to watch this podcast. And so be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, do all that fun stuff. And tune in again next week, Tuesday at 10 a.m. We'll be live on YouTube and coming very soon to all the podcast platforms. So thank you for watching. God bless you and take care.